All right, I'm so excited to be talking to you guys. So first off, how have rehearsals been going?
I say quite successful. Yes, indeed. It's starting to sound like music.
So are there any like fun moments that you want to talk about through rehearsals? Anything funny, anything interesting that's been going on like in the space?
Well, there's certainly a lot of avant-garde bits in my piece,
Yeah.
so having those, learning how those kind of fit together, it's always interesting to hear that happen and not, on a computer where you can't really hear an actual human play it. Um, and because there's no singers at the rehearsals, primarily I'm the one singing it. I seem to recall yesterday, I'm playing the organ part, I'm trying to sing, and it's a bitonal passage where the woodwinds are playing in, I think, E major. They're playing My Country 'Tis of Thee. Meanwhile, I'm singing something totally different, and I'm playing this atonal bit on the organ. It was very used all my brain power to do
Yeah.
that. Just
Right.
It's kind of going off that the all the brain power because I wrote one of the pieces and I'm conducting both of the pieces. And so there's a lot of back and forth where like if Ryan stops singing, then I'll start singing, or if I'm singing one of mine and then Ryan will start singing. And so it's when the music gets particularly difficult and I really have to focus, then he's able to take up a lot of the slack. Thankfully, we have two really amazing singers who we get to work with. So for some of the larger rehearsals, we'll be able to be more focused on our tasks.
Right. There's a little bit of that back and forth. And what I like about you guys is that you work together a lot. You have your own pursuit interests, but you always come back to each other. So what's like that relationship been like in fostering that? Are there any like disagreements? Do you guys get along? What's that like?
Been what, 7 years in the making now? Eight?
7 years in the
Yeah,
making.
7 years in the making. So
Past 3 years have been very collaborative.
extremely.
I say we have a great back and forth, and we each bring something different to the table that complements the other.
Absolutely.
So it's a beautiful thing.
I think the biggest argument, it's not an argument, but the biggest like functional disagreement we have is also a lot of Ryan's stuff is performed to be, at least in this setting, is performed to be acoustic. Like every instrument will be mic'd. So all 19 performers will have their own track, their own mic that'll be saved. Um, and for a lot of my stuff, it requires of the singers to be amplified for a lot of this stuff because a lot of the pieces that I wrote require the singer to sing over the entire orchestra, which you can do with amplification. Um, Whereas more of Ryan's are more acoustic, more the singer will be able to sing effectively over the ensemble. So it's a matter of figuring out where the production aspects and like amplification technical aspects are best met with we are writing music for an acoustic setting,
Right.
if
It's
that
very
makes sense.
interesting when two different composers with two different styles and two different needs like come together and make a concert like you guys are doing and making it flow and make sense. So that's very impressive. I want to hear a little bit about the programming of this concert. Like it's called Banners and Broken Hearts. What does that mean to you guys? What can people expect when they come?
So September series started last year was just it was a one-off. It was, kind of the 1977 Star Wars, we're only doing it the one time, and then come to find out we're doing it again. We're rolling it back. And we wanted to go into it with a little more of a theme this year. And so we each had the ideas for pieces that we'd wanted to do, or pieces that we had started in some effect. And Ryan's writing, Ryan wrote American Dream, and I wrote Rolling the Dice. And it was here are two very different pieces, and we'll certainly get into the nuts and bolts of like what the pieces are about in a minute. But here are two very different pieces. What's the through line there? And so the pieces ultimately come down to some banners and some broken hearts interwoven into the music as we share that with the audience.
Do you have the names of the specific pieces? Is that something you can share, or do you want to
Yes.
wait
Yeah, we can share. We can
for
share,
that?
Yeah,
definitely.
certainly.
You go ahead.
Well, my piece, which will open the program, is called American Dream. And it's really a retelling of the events of the Revolutionary War, primarily from Washington's perspective. I did about 2 months of research reading his letters various other speeches and things, newspapers, only newspapers, British newspapers from the time period. So the libretto is probably 50% myself and 50% the actual, just straight from the source. And that was one of the struggles I had, was making it sound like one voice the whole time, not just, oh, this is clearly Ryan wrote this, or clearly this is something that is from Washington's letters. So I remember sitting at
Yeah.
the kitchen table reading through each other's pieces, and the first question I asked him was, well, did it sound like this was one person the whole time?
Man, it does. It really does.
That's it. How did you go about that? Like, what specifically led you to that text, and like, what do you think made it all sound like one person?
A lot of reading, trying to really, I mean, I kind of have this fanciful way of talking anyway, but just really immersing myself in the letters, in the music of the time. I'm out on my daily walks, people looking at me. What's he listening to? I'm listening to Yankee Doodle. I'm listening to, "'Tis Washington's Health," and just really absorbing the language and the really just how they talked back then, and trying to infuse that into my writing. And I think I was quite successful.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And Paula would love to hear about the title of your piece, why it's called that.
So the title of my piece is called Rolling the Dice, and the idea for it started back shortly after I met Ryan, actually. I was a freshman in college at that point, and a lot of different iterations, a lot of different ideas on where the story was going. Ultimately, boy meets girl, the highs and lows of the relationship, and the fact that these two unnamed characters are rolling the dice on each other and their relationship and what can be, what isn't going to be, what the hopes and dreams and what have you. And ultimately, rolling the dice follows a relationship arc using two unnamed characters from the start all the way to the end of their relationship and everything in between, and is written in such a way to be as applicable and open-ended as possible. So audiences could put themselves in the shoes of the speakers, the characters, if you will,
Mm.
of the story here.
So if I want to see if I can make you guys do this, could you describe your concert each in 3 words?
Banners and Broken Hearts hyphenated. Challenging. Challenging for me, just because I had to write it. It's a very involved piece, so it's a lengthy piece. And challenging because it forces you to think about, okay, how do I, like me, the writer, apply to this? But then, is this gonna toe the line? Um, Accessible, because every piece of music ever since the dawn of time has been about boy meets girl. Um, and so it's the challenge of, am I rehashing something that doesn't need to be rehashed, or is it something that is gonna be effective, challenging, accessible, and passionate? Passionate, because it's a story about two people who fall in love, and and those highs and lows, and so the music follows that through line.
Okay, Ryan?
Close to my turn then, yes. Well, perhaps enduring. The past year has been working on this piece from me and Paul's perspective, and it's just every waking moment has been, I need to do this specific thing today to stay on track and have all this music ready for the first rehearsal. And it's been an ongoing process, but it's really shaping up. So enduring. Um, I think it's relatable. I mean, it's easier to relate to Paul's piece. I mean, everyone has that kind of that experience with someone at some point in their lives. But I think for mine, I think it's yeah, sure, it's about the Revolutionary War, but take for instance, like when you want to relate to something, take the is it Bunker Hill?
Yes.
The encampment, yeah. Bunker Hill. The middle movement is called The Winter. It's really, honestly, it's probably the climax of the piece.
It's my favorite
the
movie.
exact middle point. And it's really, when we look at American history, there's a lot of romanticizing and there's a lot of just building up these figures to be more than people. And when you look at the story of Bunker Hill, there's a lot of, oh, it was this rough and tough, almost 80s training montage. When it truly wasn't. When you read Washington's letters, it was a miserable experience. He referred to Bunker Hill as a cold, bleak hill. And that movement is really, yeah, sure, it's about the encampment, but it's really about making through it, enduring and getting through a situation. It's about perseverance. And I think that's why that movement's more powerful to me, especially at the climax when you finally get the final utterance of the the refrain, which I will not say. I will
Yeah.
not spoil
No
it.
spoilers.
Yes, no
The
spoilers.
best movement. We can't spoil that one.
Third one. Oh, transformative. I really do think that you'll come away from this concert, maybe having a different perspective on from my piece, our country and where we're going, and from Paul's piece. But yeah, I think this concert's quite transformative. I think you come away from it like with a new perspective. It's an old perspective on our nation, but maybe still have those kinds of problems today. And then you come from Paul's piece, it's like, well, that is the ebb and flows of life are something we all share.
Do you think you could come up with like maybe three words to describe the type of person that you would like to come to this concert or the type of person who would enjoy this kind of music?
Friends and family, right there. Um, but more seriously, September Series is a free concert, and it is made possible by uh, an entire slew of volunteers. So, the technicians and the performers and the venues that allow us to use their space. So it is truly, in every sense of the word, a community event. September Series is about the communities that we share and the music that we share in our communities and how we build on that. So it's definitely for people who should be here, who I think will benefit from this communities, the poor second choice, but musicians, because musicians who support other musicians become better musicians, which is why we do this, which is why it's not just, oh, it's my concert, oh, it's Ryan's concert. No, it's the September Series. It's the sum is bigger than the parts. And the third one would be listeners, people who want to listen, people who want to learn more, people who want to experience more. Uh, it is a really special event, and it's made special primarily because of, or entirely because of, the first one that I said, which is still the better one that I chose, community, which is at its core why this concert series happens.
You'll also enjoy this concert series if you love program notes, because there are going to
Yeah,
be so many program notes to read, and all of mine are about history, so I hope you like history as well.
That is something that I also know about you guys is that you don't just write a piece of music and let it be as is. You like that there's a purpose to it. You like that there's a story behind it, and I think that that's what draws people to your music a lot of the time. Ryan, you mentioned that you like that historic sort of thing. Like, what specifically draws you to that? A lot of your music tends to revolve around American history. Like, why?
Well, I'd say by some circumstance that I can't really fully explain, uh, in the same vein that Christmas music and nursery rhymes are part of my musical language, so are patriotic songs. It's almost to take a borrowed tune and transform it and put myself into it is almost an equal, fulfilling challenge for me as writing something completely different. So just having an excuse to take all those songs and tell the story was really what drew me to this because I already wrote a piece about the Civil War called Sherman's March. So we covered that one. Time for a different historical event. And the Revolution, I was quite drawn to that one. I had actually written a song, you probably remember it, George. His name is George Washington. And I do quote that song in there somewhere. You'll have to listen very closely to hear it. But I don't know, there's just something campy and fun about taking those tunes and having a little bit of fun.
I loved performing in George Washington. I'm gonna be listening out for that for sure. I did want to ask if there were any like little motifs or sections that you wanted people to kind of listen out for. Any like tidbits that you could give us that you're like, I put this in here. Let's see if you can find it. Something like that. Something that you're excited for people to hear.
As of our rehearsal yesterday, Paul had been wondering why I hadn't quoted the Star Spangled Banner. And then he caught it.
Yeah. But it was what that was rehearsal 7,
Yes.
8 or something, and to that point I had not heard it. So
Just
it's nested very.
yeah.
It's obvious, but it's there. Once you hear it, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, I get it.
I
Anything?
love seeing the moment where someone catches on to a quoted tune. It's much in the same vein as the Mass in D minor, the Benedictus movement, which is literally just Twinkle Twinkle Little Star variations. To see the look on the musicians when they realize what they're playing, it's uh, it's very gratifying.
It's like
Funny.
it's like Rick rolling, but more professional.
Yes, yes, indeed.
Well, that's the fun of being a composer, I've heard. So, Paul, anything in your music that you wanna?
So much of, as I said before, rolling the dice was a 7-year process. So much changed from what it was when it started out and what it ultimately became. And so I ended up using a lot of, I reference some earlier stuff that I wrote in the pieces itself as a sort of like a self-referential thing, but also as a these other pieces that I've written previously, parts of them kind of serve or parts of them fulfill the musical narrative that I'm trying to tell at this particular point. Um, and so that is so there's some of my own stuff in there, but there's also a couple reoccurring themes in like the whole piece itself that are, for lack of a better word, proto leitmotific, if you will. Obviously, this isn't for film, but they serve a function in the music and serve as a sort of a motor, an emotional motor throughout the music. There's a couple in there, and upon hearing the pieces, it becomes obvious what is and is not.
I think people would like to know what kind of stuff goes into making a concert like this happen. You guys are torn through a bunch of different churches, a bunch of different places, and I think people want to know what that process has been like for you to like find performers and find churches and places that will let you perform there. So how has that process been for you guys?
Churches.
It's a process as old as time finding performers. Really, we've both had our shared experiences recruiting, especially during our time at NAS.
Oh yeah.
My technique was usually to go to the practice rooms. Of course, I can't do that anymore because like, who's this old person trying to talk to me? Um, but yeah, just at this point, we really have a solid network of very supportive musicians that want to play, that want to support new music, and it's a beautiful thing. As far as the venues, I'm the organist at two of the churches. And then the third church that we added this year, well, the fourth church we added, Geneseo, pastor at the Nunde Church, knew this pastor, and that was our sort of our inroad into that new uh, collaboration.
Everyone knows everyone else in our line of work, and it's the kind of thing where by doing what we do, you get the opportunity to meet other people. And so even if it's, you ask someone to play and they say, no, I don't know, but I know someone here and I know someone, and then you sort of the ladder sprawls out from there. I mean, in finding some more of our performers for this year, I ended up meeting something like 12 new tenors, just tenors in the Rochester area, all of whom are exceptional vocalists. Um, and so in finding people, we learn and we grow and we build a lot of really awesome connections.
So I would love to know like how you feel your journey as a composer has led you to this specific moment. You've done concerts before, you've made all the connections, you've written a lot of pieces, but what sets this one apart? How has your journey led you to this moment?
I really, as far as the composition progress, threw everything in the kitchen sink into this piece, whether it was improvisation, walking around and just hoping an idea comes to me, which is often what I'm doing when I'm out there walking, or taking a looper pedal attached to my synthesizer and plucking out every single little line, driving everyone in the house crazy. So just all of those past techniques, but this piece required a very specific approach for a lot of the movements because I didn't want it to sound much in the same vein as the text had to sound like one person, whether it was Washington or whether it was a colonial newspaper per movement. Had to be one narrator, one person per movement. The music also had to be cohesive in that manner because I'm taking all these patriotic tunes, I'm quoting them, I'm repurposing them, I'm doing all these different things, and my music has to really nestle all of these things and accompany them. So I had to write a lot of music that sounded like it was written at the time. So I did a lot of listening, a lot of internalizing how they wrote things back then. And then what I would do, because I wanted new music that sounded like it came from the time, but then I merely distorted it, much as the borrowed tunes. But you can't just write something that's distorted. You have to start with the plain Jane version. So for instance, the elegy. I sat down a lot of the times, like troubadour figures, just plucking out some chords, singing about George Washington. I needed something like that, so I sat down my ukulele, looked at the text. I'll give myself 3 chords. I'm just going to sing through this text and try to sound as period appropriate as I can. And then once I had that, I did my thing to it, distorted it, orchestrated it out. Now we have something that sounds like it was from the time, and I adjusted it, but it's all original music.
When I started writing the piece, it was going to be when I first was like, yes, I'm writing Rolling the Dice many years ago. It was going to be 19 movements, but it was going to be 19 like individual movements, and just going to be singer, piano, nothing else. And then when it came time when we decided, yeah, we're going to do September series again, we figured out who our performers were going to be, and we had the idea for if I'm doing 19 movements, what if we had 19 performers? So I have 19 movements, and we have between our 2 singers and Ryan playing organ, not counting me as the conductor, but there are 19 musicians on that stage. But the movements are not going to be full length things. So ended up taking 19 full movements, but some of them are very short. Some of the movements are 4 measures long, and they segue right into each other. So I was challenging myself with one. This is the first piece of music that I've ever written that is my own text. I've never, in all of my years, I've never sat down and said, I'm going to write a song. How about 19 of them? And so there's that. Although some of the movements don't have any lyrics at all. So there are some very short movements that segue into larger ones, but at the same time, I also wanted some substantial movements that are their own thing, their own piece of music, their own style. I've got a jazz movement in there. I've got a rock movement in there. I've got a very slow movement in there. I've got a very fast movement. It needed to cover all this different material and follow the arc of the story, but also have a success in these are songs that still function and still serve the story itself and feel like true pieces of music that someone could listen to and that someone would enjoy. And so ultimately, the earlier versions of Rolling the Dice, most of that got scrapped, frankly. So I was telling Ryan the other day, the graveyard of songs that I ended up not using, and text and music and things that just will never ever see the light of day again, is I'm sure much longer than the actual piece that I wrote because of how much fussing it took to make it work just the right way, to bridge all these gaps together to make a full-length piece of music, essentially an album, but that will be performed as one piece that is back to back to back.
Well, it's very interesting to see like what led you up to this point and the inner workings of your pieces. So I wanted to ask you guys about the key performers, key players, who's going to be featured, what is it like working with them, how did you find them? I'd love to hear about the people that are going to be performing your music.
I think the two obvious choices are our 2 singers, McLean Hunter, who is our alto soprano singer. She is the female character in mind, and the sort of the press and the news character in Ryan's, and not so much character, but you know, the she's the McLean's the girl character in ours. Um, and she's got an absolutely amazing voice. She can sing anything. She is super reliable. She's super friendly, and she was brought on very early on when we were talking about who do we want to have be our singer because we knew we needed someone who could just really bring the house down. And she has a lot of really cool moments in both of our pieces where we get to really see her because she's a musical theater performer. So we really get to see her expertise as a singer, but also as a performer, bringing that sort of that dramatic edge, that light into it. I think really improves upon just the quality of that. And our tenor vocalist is a man by the name of Ben Garcia Black. He joined us very recently, joined us very, very recently on very short notice, but is super excited. He's super talented. He's also a musical theater major, for a musical theater graduate, and and follows a very similar vein of he has the awesome voice, but he also has the ability to perform as a dramatic performer. And so he brings the quality of the music up with him. He's your George Washington.
Yes, he is George Washington.
I would love to know, like, are there any moments in your program that really are special to you that give you chills that you maybe think will do the same for the audience, but really are just like so special to you?
I'd say the aforementioned moment in the winter is quite impactful. Is just the climax. Just I definitely get chills when I play it, even when I'm practicing it or walking around the house singing it.
Singing it, yeah.
I definitely there's a couple moments, well, several moments, and there's a lot of music going on, so there's several
Yeah.
moments. I mean, in Paul's piece that I quite enjoy, several lines that are quite nice. I don't even think I'm gonna spoil it.
I know we don't want
It's
to.
so
Yeah.
good.
You don't want to give too much away. I understand that.
More, it's with that one. It's there's the through lines that we have. Those thematic through lines are, I think, and this is a really good problem to have when you have the things that are like this is the nuts and bolts of what the piece is about, and when that's the thing that people can leave with, great, great. That's what I really think that the big moments that we have in ours are going to be the big takeaways.
Mhm.
Fingers crossed.
And then the last question I wanted to ask you guys is there anything that we haven't talked about yet today that you are dying for people to know that you think that people should be aware of before attending your concert?
It's free. It's free. The running gag that I've always had is uh when I was younger, I wasn't as involved in music. I didn't really appreciate live music as much as I do now, obviously. And so whenever I'd go to concerts with my family, I'd always ask my parents like, "Hey, is there food afterwards? Hey, is there a reception?" And if there was a reception, then I'd be like, "Okay, I'll go. So there is a reception that each venue is providing for free. That that people who go are welcome to. So bring your family, bring your friends. It's a free concert. Donations are very are accepted because we cannot pay our performers nearly what they're worth. We cannot pay our technicians nearly what they are worth. And as I said earlier, the communities make these kind of events happen. And so the donations we get go right back to our performers. They go right back to our performers. We do not get paid from this at all. We don't. And it's a matter of we want to continue to pursue our passion for music, and the best way we can do that is by paying our performers. And so if you can donate there and you can donate online, there's a Venmo link and there's a PayPal link if you don't want to give out cash. So we have a lot of options for donations because we have a lot of really cool performers and technicians who make this happen. And it wouldn't happen without them, frankly.
All right, that's good to hear. Well, that's all the questions that I have for you guys. So thank you so much for everything. This has been really great.
Yeah, we appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Anna.